All right, folks, it's our Mega 3 live stream. Hope you're having a nice Friday evening here. Let's get you updated on first what's going on forecast-wise for our upcoming parades. Our first one, this will be Saturday morning about 11 o'clock, the African American Parade celebration. And I think the weather's going to be just dandy for that, probably in the 50s to start with some sunshine and probably in the 60s as it gets going there. And I think it wraps up, close to 3 p.m. It'll be in the 60s. That's the way it looks right now. Not as warm as what we had today, but still above average for this time of year. Average high temperature, according to the Shreveport National Weather Service, is about 81. So pretty close to that in downtown Shreveport where the parade will be going on. So it looks like a good time. Concerning weather, no problems there. The crew of Centaur later on in the afternoon, we're looking at possibly the 60s by the time it starts rolling, and then falling off into the 50s as we venture toward evening. Not expecting any problems there. Winds out of the east at 5 to 10, but I think it'll be pretty comfortable out there. Perhaps a little cool for the evening, but should be a good time had by all there. Up in Texarkana, well, it looks like some fun there too. Lots of sunshine. Temperatures in the 60s by the middle part of the afternoon. And that's pretty much an all-day affair there, at least from 10 a.m. all the way until, about 8 p.m. So it looks like shouldn't be any problems there weather-wise. No inclement weather to speak of, and including day two of the big celebrations over there in the Jefferson area there. It's a Mardi Gras upriver to Krewe of Hebe. Looks like 11 a.m. all the way into 11 p.m. or at least pretty much 12 hours of having a good time. Lots of sunshine, 60s by the middle part of the afternoon, falling off perhaps close to 50 as we finish out the event, at least for Saturday. Still got some fun to happen on Sunday too, but I think the weather will be warmer on Sunday, but it should be nice for that too. All right, earlier today, this is interesting. So didn't get all the data here for some reason, but the National Weather Service had us for a high of 83 today officially. The record's 85 set back a year ago. So we were cranking today, but not quite to record temperature territory. But notice the average high is 61. That's a 30-year average. And again, as we often describe, that's a number that arises from the extremes. That's how you kind of come up with it. But nonetheless, we were well above average, some 22 degrees above average today. I think closer to average for tomorrow, but still probably 4 or 5 degrees above average by the afternoon high. All right, here's our Weather Watcher reports. Want to shout out to all the folks that keep the data coming in there. It's nice to have representation across our Ark-La-Tex area, not just the airport sites that nobody lives at. It's nice to get neighborhood weather reports there. Ken Wall, New Boston, 85 today, and just up the way, Chuck Cam in Redwater, 82. He's been a weather watcher for a long time. Reed Eisenhower, Texarkana at 83, and Brian Loper, ham radio expert there, 81 in Atlanta, Texas. Vic Scarborough, Ida, Louisiana. He's the tornado chaser or storm chaser. He chases them all there. 81 degrees for his afternoon reading. Tim Dunham, a new weather watcher out of Vivian. It looks like 86 for his high. Bob Fentress over in the Bellevue area, 84. Fabulous downtown Bellevue. He likes to kid around about. Wayne Hadfield and Homer, he's been around a long time too, 81 degrees. Very warm there near Lake Claiborne. June Jones, Elysian Field, she's been around a while, 79 for her high. Bob Baker in Carthage, I've known Bob since, about 2001, I believe. He's been sending in weather for years. Nice to have him aboard there. 81, his high today. Francis Moody up Cypress Lake, used to live right down the street from him, or pretty close to it. He's off of 162. 83 today. Kay Berry in Stonewall. She had 83 also. Jean Haynes, name spelled the same there, out in Stonewall, 82. Gary Battlefield, new weather watcher out of Elm Grove, 81. Ronnie Vale, Ruston, 79. Barry Howard in Clarence, Louisiana. They're checking in at 80 degrees. And right around the metro area, Randall Elliott, he's pretty close to 162 east of Benton at 84. Molly Rankin there at 82 today in Benton. Gary Stratton and Blanchard at 83. Then we have Mike Lyles in Shreveport, 84. Ronnie Hull there in Shreveport also in the 80s. And Mark Potter, Bossier City, he's been around quite a while too. 83 for his high. Weather watchers, thank you for your representation here today. Pretty much the 80s, just about everybody except for June Jones and Elysian Fields, but 79 is close enough for government work there. But yeah, fine job. And what a warm day. And even at this hour in the evening, we're still cranking pretty good, 63 in Shreveport. And just as we were talking about a few moments ago, that's a couple degrees above the average high, which usually occurs about 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So we're in the evening hours now, and we're still above average. 70 still in Texarkana, going down in the upper 50s there in DeQueen, 50s in Marshall, Minden, and checking in with 55 down in Manning. Ruston, not too bad, 57. Our Wilson Knight Mega 3 Doppler radars not showing any rainfall at this time. It looks like we probably won't have any action on that until perhaps Monday night into Tuesday. So still some time to come. So as for this weekend, great celebration weekend in the Arklatex. No precipitation expected. That is for tonight. And it looks like dry weather conditions for Saturday area-wide. And the numbers reflect the chance of something measurable at your location or close by. And Sunday, we'll just do the same thing. Not expecting any precipitation this weekend. The defining weather features, well, we got the jet stream bowing down out to the southwest and rising up into Canada and then coming down across the eastern part of the nation. So the eastern part of the nation is still under a huge trough, still chilly in the eastern part of the nation. In fact, one of my buddies I used to work with years ago at WFOR in Miami, he wasn't there very long, but while I was there, he was a helicopter reporter, said it was in the 40s this morning, all the way down in Miami. That's cold down that far of South Florida. Anyway, we got a northwest flow still across the Arklatex and one little dent in that southwest or northwest flow, that is, little disturbances coming down, and that'll help push a weak cold front through, but there's not much of a disturbance there to push it through. We're just going to kind of catch the back end of it, and that'll give us a little bit of a wind, but not a real weather maker for us. It didn't even, cool us down all that much. I mean, compared to today, it does. But and then that goes away as our ridge builds in. It'll just push it right back to the north as a warm front as we get into your Sunday. So it's just about a 24-hour cool down. Well, this weather maker out in the southwest will be here for Tuesday, it appears, according to the latest computer models, that could give us some rain. And the ridge will kind of flatten out. We'll talk about that in the extended forecast in just a moment. But here's our front coming through tonight. Again, most of the push are like where the dynamics are, or the strongest part of the upper level dynamics in the surface low are way up there in the New England states. So very much the tail end of that front, so not very strong when it gets this far south and that far west. So it's coming through. A bit of a wind shift. Instead of the west winds like we had today, will be more easterly for tomorrow. Those west winds were warming winds today, and then having that frontal boundary around too, as it's lifting up the air, you also got air that's sinking down right in front of that boundary, and it's called compressional heating. And so we had a combination of that, very dry air, lots of sunshine, and that all got us up close to a record high temperature today. But once that front moves through, we'll pick up a little bit of an east wind for tomorrow. And the east wind is kind of an upsloping type wind, so a little bit cooler scenario. And of course, a little bit of what we call cold air advection or cool air advection from the northeast, but not much though. Current temperatures, 60s in Dallas, Houston, and of course here in Shreveport. So we'll have a cool night. The cloud features in white will be kind of scattered across the Southland. As we get into tomorrow, sunshine and nice. We'll see some of those high clouds perhaps moving in our direction, and they'll start filling the sky as we get into your Sunday. It'll be kind of cool Saturday night, but then Sunday afternoon, the warm front, it already has passed, and it looks like a trough develops up to our northwest, and the wind is a counterclockwise flow around that trough, so we'll pick up that southwesterly breeze again, and that'll heat us up. We'll be right back up 70s there for Sunday, so a quick turnaround on this very short-lived cool snap. For tonight, the upper 30s to low 40s for minimum temperatures. And then we get into tomorrow, probably just top out in the 60s, which again, most areas slightly above average and nothing like we saw a little over a week ago. So a little disturbance on the West Coast. It moves toward us as we get into about Tuesday time frame. And so what the map you're looking at is called the jet stream forecast. And so the upper level winds kind of flow parallel to those lines. They call that geostrophic flow if you're in the meteorology and what have you. Bottom line is the ridge that you saw on that one map, it kind of flattens out a little bit, but still a pattern from west to east. That's usually a fairly dry pattern, and it also keeps the cold air up in Canada. And so that's the way it's looking right now. But that little dip in the jet there, that little disturbance comes by, kind of weakens once it gets here. So not really expecting too much out of that concerning rainfall. Here's the way it plays out. And I mean, there's a little surface reflection up to the north and west of us, but this disturbance kind of outruns it and moves on by. And that little surface reflection just kind of eases on through and really doesn't do much. In other words, the low and the cold front and the warm front there and the dry line. So not much happening there Tuesday. At least that's the way it looks right now. Not expecting a severe weather outbreak. It appears, though, down the road that perhaps Saturday a week from now, we could see some pretty good storms. But there's so much with this type model that did my forecast on today. You get that many days out, 8, 9 days out. There's just too much air that builds up each day to get there. And we call that deterministic modeling. So you take the weather data from the weather balloons the National Weather Service sends up. Usually it's twice a day. They used to do it in the early morning. Now they do it about midday in Shreveport, and then the evening one. And take that data, the pressures, temperatures, humidity, and all that business, winds, and you put them into these computer models using math and science, and they figure out what the forecast will be several days out. They also have an ensemble models that they kind of change the data that they put into them to see if it makes any drastic changes in what happens weather-wise when you're going out. But bottom line is there's a lot of error when you get that far out, and the timing will change on you, and the intensity of those systems will change. So not too concerned about right now, but the weekend, though, looks fantastic. We're looking at 60s on your Saturday with sunshine. High clouds around on Sunday, highs in the mid-70s, and still fairly dry because we're getting down into the 40s, but that south wind will start picking up and then southwesterly, and that'll pump that humidity in here. So temperatures in the 50s during the morning on Monday, nearly 60 on Tuesday. The humidity's back by then. And that's more average for Arklatex weather since we're close to the Gulf of Mexico to have, highs in the 70s, lows in the 50s about a month from now. But nonetheless, that's kind of how it's going to play out. Forecast-wise, at least that's the way it looks right now. Anyway, we'll be back on here in about 45 minutes, actually on the KPXJ CW21 News at 9, and then we'll be on that KTBS Channel 3 News at 10 to update you on all that weather, news, and sports. In the meantime, I hope you have a nice weekend there, and look forward to seeing you out there riding those floats, enjoying yourself. Just be careful out there. And we appreciate you watching here this evening. Have a nice evening, folks.